Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the DCI number 862/962 set of universal automatic flush bolts for metal and wood doors. This is in a satin chrome finish, and speaking of the finish, they sure offer this in lots and lots of finishes: your brasses, your bronze, your chromes, your oil rubbed as well. These are uncommon, these tiny little automatic flush bolts. And that's too bad that they are, because they're elegant. And I'm separating it all out on my desk here. There's really not a lot that's happening with this stuff at all. Very simple and straightforward. There's nothing unique or special about either end, per se, the top or the bottom. And the reason you want to know about them is because that they are an elegant way to solve the problem, in the sense that they're automatic flush bolts. So, and they are listed and labeled. They're listed, they've been tested, there is listings on file with the testing agency. They're labeled. They physically bear the label, the mark that would permit it to be installed onto a fire-rated door assembly. Once it was, after having been prepped by a licensed machine shop, a machining shop. Instructions are included, and we're going to get into that here in just a moment. An automatic flush bolt, or automatic flush bolts, are going to be used when you need to when you have a pair of fire doors and both doors must self-close and self-latch. The self-latching is where these come in. A typical scenario for auto flush bolts is going to be an opening that does not require an exit device on possibly one or both doors. Maybe it is required for occupancy load on the active door only. So either no exit device or with an exit device. It could just be a pass-through. I did a job for a client many years ago where they literally had an underground tunnel from building A to building B. Well, those doors down in the tunnel, those are going to be fire-rated. And exit device hardware was not mandatory. And they literally had a set of automatic flush bolts on there. So your inactive door needs to close and latch. Your active door is what's going to then close and force the inactive door to then become latched via those automatic flush bolts. You will generally have, you'll always have a coordinator involved in the system, so that your inactive door is going to be permitted to close first, and then your active door. The active door will be held ajar until the inactive door comes and closes, allowing the active door to close. So you use automatic flush bolts in that application, completely code compliant. In its application, meaning you don't need exit devices on both doors. You could also use it in a non-fire rated application where you literally had a residential installation, a pair of doors, gorgeous doors, let's say doors that cost $20,000, not unheard of, and you don't want a whole lot of hardware on the door to keep the inactive door closed. You might be looking for a minimalist approach where you don't see much hardware at all. And in fact, with this set of automatic flush bolts, let's say you had a pair of 8'8" doors, or pick any size you want, that's all you're going to see in the edge, top and bottom. That's all you're going to see. It's just this guy right there. And that's where I think you're really going to do a good job with these bolts. Now, they are, I guess, what you would say an atypical sort of preparation, but the template's right here. It's a lot less material to remove, at least reasonably less material, and I'll tell you this, you can prep it in the field, and it's not so difficult if it's a fire-rated door. What I mean by that is with traditional automatic flush bolts for wood doors, it's not so bad because the preparation is just a big L-shaped kind of prep in the edge of the door. If you're using extension bolts, like would be intended for a hollow metal door, then you've got a problem, because that's not so easy to prep for. because the requirements of the preparation require special tools that you're probably not going to want to get into. This is a latch bolt prep in the edge of the door. It's going to have a hole drilled in the edge of the door. You're going to do the same up in the top and the bottom, and then just drill a hole and make the two meet. And frankly, if you had to do this with nothing other than a drill bit, a hammer, and a chisel, you could probably make it happen. Although a router would be how you'd want to move at this sort of project. So if you want something elegant and petite on your fire-rated doors or your non-fire-rated doors, this could be great. If you've got especially tall doors and you never have a need to, and you're using fully automatic flush bolts, you don't really care that you can't reach up and grab that top bolt. If you're doing 9-foot doors, put it way up at the top. The point is you don't want to see the hardware. So there you go. Really neat. I could even see how you might get really fancy and drop the plate. And if you're doing some sort of a custom preparation, you're going to bring your matching style right over this and leave yourself just this rectangular cut so nothing's hanging off except that trigger. That could be really neat as well. Okay. The manufacturer's representative came into the shop not long ago with these as a sample set, and I said I'd make a video on them. He says, yeah, we just don't sell as many as we'd like to. What are they intended for? Well, when you don't want to see the hardware, you know, when you've got to have two doors close and latch, but you don't want to see it. The point of the automatic flush bolt in that residential application is every time you open that active door, your inactive is going to be unlatched. So be mindful of that. And that might be just exactly what you want, or you might not, or that may not be what you want, where you want it to be always latched. What you might do is consider half of a set, put that at the top, and then a manual bolt at the bottom, so that you can leave it either automatically latching, unlatching at the top every time the active door is closed, but the bottom manual will still keep it latched. But in those instances where you're in and out, in and out, in and out, trip the bottom, unlatch the bottom manual bolt, and now every time the active door is open, now you've got access to the inactive door. That's semi-automatic. It's a typical function used in that sort of scenario, where one's latching and the other's not, or at least automatic. Now, the template that's down below gives us all of the, and there is a link below this video to that document that's going to be included. Let's take a look. First of all, the product information. So the documentation is telling us it's an 860 or a 960, or an 862 and a 962. Okay, but what's the difference? Really nothing, except that an 860 is going to be, the difference is going to be that or a set of bolts, and that's where the 2 in the part number comes from. Okay, so what you're going to have is either an 860 or a 960 for a single bolt. This is a set of bolts, 862, 962, so there's going to be a top and a bottom. You could also order this as an 860, 960 with a BFB bottom fire bolt is what it is. And if you have an application where you need to make sure that both doors are secured together in the time of fire, you can install a bottom fire bolt, and it basically is a piece of equipment that will fire with a rapidly expanding intumescent type principle. A bolt from the active door into the inactive door at a certain temperature. Don't quote me, it might be 250 degrees, I don't remember. But the logic of that firing is no one will be standing at the opening to manually latch the doors. So the bottom firebolt occurs when that temperature substantially elevates to a point where it will then activate and secure the 2 doors together, giving you the ability to have a fire-rated opening. Now, per the product brochure that's down below, they do define how the part numbers work. They are UL listed, grade 1, which means 1,000,000 cycles, fully automatic. Opening active door retracts top and bottom bolts. Closing active door extends bolts into the frame and sill strikes, locking the inactive door. It's a patented two-piece design. The small profile design requires only a latch bolt prep of two 1/8 inch and an eighth diameter holes at the rail and meeting edge of the door. Let's stop there. It's a small profile that only requires an inch and an eighth hole this way, an inch and an eighth hole this way, or this way and this way. The prep will also maintain the stability of the wood door by eliminating the need to remove the core at the corners, preventing delamination and or breakage. What they're referring to there is wood door flush bolts are known to be culprits of substantially eroding the integrity of the door at the outside corner. If you were to look up a wood door flush bolt, you will see that you remove the entire inner portion of the outside corner of the door, even to the point where a certain manufacturer includes screws for you to screw with a countersunk washer through the very thin veneer that's left over into the body of the bolt itself to keep that edge of the door from delaminating and opening up. It's a known problem. That is an advantage of where this door will shine over that sort of problem. Override feature. The override spring prevents damage to doors or bolts should the bolt head be unable to extend into the top or bottom strike. So I've got two of them linked together here. It's very simple. They literally just slide together. See, it's easy. Okay. After you drill your two holes and you mortise for the prep down and in, you get them put together. When the active door closes, the trigger goes in, forcing that bolt up. If there were to be some sort of problem with a misalignment, or more so in the bottom of the door where the latch bolt cannot seek and enter its strike area, I'll do it this way. If my thumb was to prevent that from lifting, it will still override feature. There are two springs in there. There's the one that activates it, and then there's another spring system that will prevent the cam or the lobe to articulate even though the bolt won't move. Okay. Low closing force, they say it 3 pounds of closing force is what it takes to get these activated. That would certainly be well below the requirements of handicap compliance of opening force. This is closing force, but closing force and opening force are related. Adjustable bolt head rods. Bolts can be vertically adjusted 1/2 inch for unusual clearance at the floor or head conditions. That would be the fact that you can remove this plate, and you'll cut these ties off when you fasten it, but the bolt can be adjusted up to 1/2 inch. There's a D prep on there, and that's how it's got to be when it's all said and done. The point of that is you could likely run into an inverted top or bottom. You will run into an inverted channel on a steel door at some point. Bottom most likely, possibly the top as well. Well, depending on how you get that prepped into the door, you might need to block it off, build it up, or you might need to simply extend that bolt out so that it can reach into the area that it needs to go into. Now be mindful that your latch bolt projection still needs to be adequate to be considered fire rated. So they're really counting on you engaging the amount that it's necessary to be engaged. And I think what we're going to do in that case is probably refer to the latch throw that will be on the label of the fire door, 1/2 inch, 5/8, 3/4, whatever it says. You'll need to accomplish that. Otherwise, you could technically be afoul of passing the under duress of a certified under duress of a fire door audit, a certified fire or whoever's conducting the inspection, a certified fire door assembly inspector, or really anyone, or the inspector most of all, could tell you that you're not in compliance. So be sure that when you set that you're throwing in what you're into the area that you're supposed to be projecting into. Adjustable, okay, easy ordering, simple stuff. What they're saying there is, if you're a distributor like us, you can order the bolts and then order the finish packages separately. This is 26D. Of the other 7 finishes they have, I could stock 10 bolts and I could stock 3 of each finish and then just keep them trim packages coming, because they literally look exactly like this. That's the trim package. Okay, I've got one of them taken apart you're going to get your strike. For the top or bottom. That's probably going to be about 2 1/16. Way off. 2 1/4 by 15/16. Yeah, you got that one right. Okay. Then you're going to get your scar plate. This is going to go on the edge of the active door so that when the active door closes, it's going to hit like that. Okay. Let's take those dimensions. 1 1/4. Overall now, about 1 3/4. Down to about 1 5/8. You're going to get this honkin' L bracket that's here. This is a riser. It's supplied. If you have an inverted channel, you're going to need to use this so that you can get your bolt assembly lifted to where you need it to go to. You're not going to be able to get that into your inverted bottom channel and then modify the length of the bolt in the unlatched position and still have it throw far enough to properly engage. You'll have to build that off using your bracket. Okay, not a big deal. It's just really a spacer is all it is, should you need to do that. Stock finishes are listed there. US 3 for polished brass, US 4 for satin brass, US 10 for satin bronze, US 10B for oil rub bronze, US 26 polished chrome, 26D satin chrome, US 32 polished stainless, US 32D satin stainless. So 8 finishes. Now onto the template. Templates are usually pretty gory, pretty full of a lot of information that seems like it's overwhelming, and it is. I mean, if you've got all the information here, all the parts, and you've got a tape measure, you can kind of derive that yourself. However, most of the time, when you send your order to the door manufacturer, he doesn't have the hardware, and he's never done it before, so he'd like to see a template with dimensions. Although this stuff's really easy. And I say that because once you study the paperwork, you'll say, yeah, it's pretty easy. In effect, we're looking at page 1, lower right-hand corner, lower third, I should say. That's going to tell us darn near everything we need to know for a wood door or a steel door preparation. If it's a steel door prep, you know, you're going to prep the edge of the door or have the edge of the door prepped for this faceplate. And the dimensions are there. They want a 2 9/32 mortise tall. They want 1 5/32 mortise wide, just so you can get the body stuck in. Okay. Now it's a steel door that they're showing with a recess channel, so you will use the spacer bracket, and you don't really have to worry about anything other than making sure that the internal core is kind of hogged out to permit you to stick the hardware in there. If you're doing a wood door, you can see what you have to do. They've already told us that we need 2 1 1/8 inch holes. Yeah, and they draw that out in the lower left-hand corner. You're going to drill an eighth of an inch diameter hole, and I would certainly use just an inexpensive fly bit. If you want the ones with the wing cutters on the outside, I like those because they score the wood better without tearing. Drill that 2 1/4 deep. Great. Now, from the top of the door, and I'm looking for where they call out the prep in the top of the door, even though they really don't need to, because in that lower left-hand corner, they do show those dashed lines telling me that it's 1 1/8 as well. You're going to come from the top of the door and drill your 2 1/8 inch hole down. The important thing is where are you going to place those. That vertical hole is going to be at 1 1/2 inch back set. From the edge of the door to the center of the hole, 1 1/2 inch, drill straight down. Okay. When you to the hole that you've drilled in the edge of the door, which will be at 4 5/8 of an inch from the top or the bottom of the door to the center line of the latch, 4 5/8. So if 4 5/8 is accurate, I should be 4 5/8 from here to the center of my trigger. Assuming the trigger is in the center of the door, but I believe that it is. Right there, 4 5/8. Beautiful. Doing a reality check on this stuff is crucial. Templates are almost never wrong. I mean, literally, all but never wrong, but very, very occasionally there's something funny with one. Or it's either an error, which is incredibly uncommon. If you're looking for errors in templates, don't put your money on black. You're not going to. That's not going to come up. I think in my 25 plus career, I only found one template that was just wrong, and they were very thankful that I pointed it out to them because they were wrong. You will find parts evolve, meaning the manufacturing in this factory changed over here and it's Office 16th, and the paperwork wasn't updated as quickly as that product was. So doing a reality check with your second best friend, your first best friend is the router, your caliper, that's the key. 4 5/8 to the center, 1.5 inch, 1 1/8 inch hole, 2 1/4 deep. If you're going to use a fly bit, be mindful that you've got a point there that is going to be going further than you might anticipate. You know, a router would really be the nice way to go on doing all of that. It'd be a lot of setup with a very long router to get that far down. And I think a router would really only be necessary on the exterior prep. So on this job, you've got two preparations, the body and then the plate. The body are the two holes. The plate are the finished areas to get your finished hardware finished off. Do your body prep first, your holes, and then come back and do the nice exterior finished routing after that. Page 2 shows how to physically connect everything together, which I think I've demonstrated. You just slide the pieces together. You either use that riser or you don't. You know, if you've got a wood door, you certainly won't use it. If you've got inverted channels, you'll use it on a steel door. The BFB mounting instructions are also there. Should you need should you have elected to install your item with a bottom firebolt? You probably wouldn't elect to do it. You'd be required to do it. Very simple sort of concept on that bottom material. Screws are included. They even give you some plastic anchors. I would imagine that's going to be for your bottom strike if you're going into a sill or if you're going into a, you know, a concrete, a masonry sort of application at the bottom, whatever that might be. Now, I'm partial to DCI, and it's because they do a good job. And what I mean by that is they try. They ship their orders out pretty quick, like industry-leading ship times. They also are really good in the sense that they have a relatively petite footprint within the marketplace. And what I mean by that is they're not trying to sell you 5,000 SKUs. They don't have that many products. The advantage in that regard is they're able to really stay nimble with the shipping lead times. They've got this stuff sitting there. I don't know that all of it's made in Michigan in the United States, but every time I seem to ask them where it's manufactured, they tell me, yeah, it's made in Michigan. I would think that some of it's imported, or at least maybe the castings are brought in, but they say it's made in the United States, and I have certainly no reason to not believe that. I also find that they are nimble because they are people that are of the breed of folks that have been in the hardware industry for years and decades. So when you call them and you ask them a question, they're hardware people. They understand what you're asking, or at least they know how to help you because they understand the hardware industry. And that's what they've done with this. There's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the DCI products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. I would recommend that you review their material. To familiarize yourself with their trim and auxiliary material. They have a excellent quality product. They have a relatively complete line of trim and auxiliary hardware, but if you know their name for anything, you may know them as the company that provides Pannex series exit devices, Pannex, specialty exit devices that are in lots of specifications, and DCI is the company that does that stuff. You'll very occasionally sell a DCI power supply, some of their electrified hardware, but they're flush bolts, manual, automatic, wood, metal doors, they're coordinators, they're roller latches, they're door stops. It's good stuff. It's all very good stuff. They're nimble. I would use them because it's really no nonsense. If you need roller latches shipped now, they're your company. If you have any questions on the DCI 862-962 set of universal auto flush bolts for wood or metal doors, or any other DCI product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.